you finally managed to get aboard for yourself. Any place in the country where you gonna go for your first skate? What location?
Yeah, I'm going to Madeira. Definitely.
Madeira.
Yeah.
In the mountains, along the beachfront.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna skate?
In the beach, in the city, everywhere. Yeah.
All right, and then once you finish your skate, what are you having for lunch?
Probably espetada. Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that's unique to Madeira, and it's a speciality. Explain to people what espetada is, because it's delicious. It's my favorite. One of my favorites.
Basically...
Olá e bem-vindo! Welcome to The Simple Life, an insider's perspective into Portugal. We already know about Portugal's amazing weather, food and people. In this podcast we go deeper and meet the real people who make this country so wonderful. Dylan, who has made his life in Portugal, shares an insider's perspective into what makes Portugal the unique, beautiful and amazing country that it is. Join him and his guests every week as they shed some light on the incredible people, culture, history and lifestyle that makes Portugal so appealing. A country where everyone feels like they belong. This podcast is sponsored by Portugal Realty. Welcome to The Simple Life.
On this week's episode, I'm joined by Pedro Andrade. Pedro is a young and enthusiastic entrepreneur who has been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 list in Europe for 2021. He is the CEO and co-founder of Hunter, and their electric skateboard was considered by Times Magazine as one of the best inventions of 2020. And this is some of his story. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life. And I'm really excited to be joined here by Pedro Andrade. Pedro, thank you for joining us, and how are you?
Doing well, fine. Just a bit tired, but yeah, it's the level of a startup guy.
We're going to get into what's making you so tired and keeping you so busy, because it's some exciting stuff. But maybe you can just start off by telling us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name is Pedro. I'm 25 years old. I'm from Madeira, more precisely Funchal. I lived there until I was 18. Then I moved to Lisbon to study at ISCTE, marketing. And yeah, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I decided I wanted to have my own startup when I was 12, and it has been since then my main focus. I've tried lots of things, but Hunter is the first one that's really having a huge global impact. It's my second startup. The first one was more like a school, okay? We made wallets. It was a craft wallet. We had sales to over 150 countries. We did two successful crowdfunding campaigns. But in terms of noise and money being generated, Hunter is blowing craft wallets out of the water. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a teenage daughter. She thinks the board is amazing. We'll talk more about Hunters and what you're doing there. But let's take a step back quickly to 12-year-old Pedro on the island in Funchal. What were some of the entrepreneurial ideas that you had at the beginning?
So my first company was it wasn't a company. It was more like a freelance thing. Back in 2008, what happened was that Portugal was in the middle of a financial crisis, and schools didn't have any money for paper for the test. So kids had to buy the paper for a test. And my classmates, they like before the test, they had to go to the paper shop and get the paper. But they had no patience for that. So I simply told them, okay, I'll go there for you, and I'll buy the paper for you, but I'll charge a premium. And I was charging like 7 times more, and they were okay. Yeah. And for a 12-year-old kid in Portugal making 6-7 euros per day during exam season, it was great. Yeah. That was my first thing. Um, my desire to have a company started when I realized that if I was going to do all I wanted to do, I had to be rich, and I was a bad singer and an awful football player. So I had to build a company. And at the time, Facebook was becoming really big, and I got a lot of inspiration from Mark Zuckerberg, and um, basically I was reading everything I could about him, Steve Jobs, you know, all the great guys. Um, and I used to spend my summer afternoons reading about startups and entrepreneurship, trying to gather as much information as I could before coming to university and launching my startup. It didn't go as planned. I tried lots of things failed, but I was always able to gather some lessons from all my failures. And I remember that once I was in Dublin at Web Summit before it came to Portugal. It was in Ireland, and I remember I met this guy called Carlos, and he has a startup in Silicon Valley, and he's a very successful entrepreneur. And he told me, okay, look, I'm going to present you to my investors. And he took me to a pub. I went there. There were like 7 Portuguese investors seated at the table, and he just introduced me this way. This is Pedro. He's 19 years old. He has an idea for a startup, but he's afraid of telling it, of telling people his idea because he's afraid someone will steal it from him. And everyone started laughing at me. So that was another lesson. So don't be afraid of telling your idea. So I've been always trying to meet new people and having different experiences inside the startup world in order to gather as much knowledge as I could to then launch my startup.
I mean, Pedro, before we get on to the career and to these things, the products and some of your the things that you're working on, tell us just a little bit about our listeners are from all over the world. They love to hear about our guests and their terra, where they're from. We've had Fatima Lopes on the podcast, the fashion designer. She's from Funchal as well. It's a beautiful island. It's a beautiful city. I was there for my honeymoon. I've been there maybe 6 or 7 times as well. It was my first experience of Portugal was coming to Funchal. So it's a great place. But tell us a little bit about your terra, what it was like growing up there, how it inspired you, and what people should know about where you're from.
So Madeira is an archipelago, and it's also the name of the biggest island of the archipelago of Madeira. And it's basically Madeira is an island off the coast of Morocco, and it's known as the Pearl of the Atlantic. So it's how can I say it? For me, it's like paradise. So it's always warm there. We can go to the beach all year long. It's safe. It has everything we need. Like it has quality of life over there. And whenever I go back there, I can feel my stress coming out of my body. Okay, but things aren't like quiet as you think a small island in the middle of the Atlantic would be. There's lots of things to do. There's an amazing city life in Funchal, lots of parties to go, lots of things to do in the nature, shopping if you're into shopping, great hotels, great restaurants, a great nightlife. So, and it's also a very beautiful city with lots of flowers and amazing buildings. So it's basically like right now with COVID, what the local government is trying to do is they are trying to attract digital nomads. So they're basically making the entire island a digital nomad hub, like Bali in Indonesia. And what you're doing to make this happen, they're giving free co-work space, and lots of partnerships with places for people to stay, and they're basically giving people a place to work in paradise in the middle of an island with a lush forest behind you and the sea in front of you. So yeah, lots of great service locations, amazing food, great weather all year round. So yeah, go there.
Amazing food. Lapish,
Yeah.
Bolkak. I mean, come on, it's great. I saw that you were there recently dancing under a waterfall. It was one of my things. I remember my parents driving me around the island, and to wash the car back then, you could only do it by going under one of those waterfalls that were by the tunnels. Yeah, really, really fun. And then, I mean, what brought you to Lisbon? Because Lisbon is now where you live now. And tell us just a little bit about where you live now and why it's a good fit for you.
So I live in Lisbon because I came here to study, and I basically met my co-founders here, and the startup is based here. So that's why I'm in Lisbon. It's a very cheap city. It has everything we need. Honestly, I do feel that I'm in a stage of my life that I need the bigger city like London or New York. But I always see Portugal as a place to come back and relax and do more work and maybe retire one day. Yeah.
Pedro, growing up in Portugal, I mean, you're still a really young guy, but growing up in Portugal, those initial years, and then the times now that you've had, where you've been able to travel overseas. You mentioned that you've gone to Dublin. I know you've been to other places around the world. Going to those other places, what do you appreciate about home? What do you appreciate about Portugal?
Yeah, and this is something that Portuguese tend to be a bit pessimistic about their homeland, but whenever they go abroad, they change their mind. Like the weather here is always good. The food is so good. Like everything, like quality doesn't mean expensive in Portugal. Okay, and that's something that you can take for granted outside of Portugal, at least in the countries I've been to. So yeah, and that feeling, and sorry, not that feeling, that fact is already being discovered by lots of people all around the world. And for example, there are lots of French in Lisbon. Why? Because they're tired of Paris and they're coming here to a city with everything they need, but much cheaper and with the same life quality. Yeah.
And I mean, what about as a place for you as a thinker, as a creator, as a businessman? So much about doing what you do is being able to have that room to think, that space to stop and to find a solution. How does Portugal and where you are give you the room to do what you do, and how does it inspire you?
Yeah. So it's not only room to get inspired, but it's also having a community around us that help us get inspired. Why? Because something that I feel in the startup community is that everyone wants to help each other. And if I have a problem, look, I had a very serious problem with payment gateways when I launched Hunter. Basically, we sold so many units in such a short time that PayPal blocked our account, and they thought we were scamming or selling drugs, something like that. And I was asking everyone for help, and lots of people introduced me to very high level people in PayPal, and basically we were able to solve the problem in 3 days. Okay, and this would never be possible without the help of the community. And lots of times I have doubts. I just type something in Slack. Look, guys, I need help with this. And there are communities of Portuguese entrepreneurs that count with hundreds of people in Slack or in Facebook, and they just help. And that's something that I feel that since the Portuguese ecosystem is still very small, people tend to help each other because they know that if this guy grows, that's also good for me, and that's good for the entire ecosystem. So yeah.
Do you think, I know that you're involved with Olisipiu, with Tosha and Jose. Tosha's been on the podcast, as well as Diogo Mosh, who did the Safeway machines, you know, and I know it's like quite a small community of people, but everybody helps everybody. But I mean, don't you think that's something that's also quite Portuguese, is we help each other. There's a community, and we try to help where we can.
Yeah, it's at least it's something that look, I've always asked for help for everything, and I've always gotten a positive answer. Only once did I get a negative answer, and it was from an American. But I'm not saying that American people are bad people, because all the other helped me, but I've only got a negative answer. Yeah. Regarding Tosha and Jose, they're our investors. So yeah, we are inside that community, and it's great. It's really great. Yeah.
Because I mean, one of the things that we spoke, and it was actually similar to what you said. One of the things I spoke with Tosha about was that spirit that we have in Portugal of trying, of where it's necessary to work together. That it's better, you know, two heads are better than one, four eyes are better than two, and it's good to collaborate. But Pedro, tell us a little bit about how Hunter Boards came about. Congratulations, first of all, because it's been voted one of the top 100 inventions, I think, for 2020, if I'm not wrong. And you were on the list. Sorry?
By Time, yeah.
Yeah, by Times Magazine. And then you were on the Forbes 30 under 30 list for 2021. So congratulations as well. That's a wonderful achievement. But just tell us about the board. Tell us how you guys developed this. As much as you can, why it's produced here. I know you produce in Alenquer, which is a place, it's an industrial zone near to Lisbon, but just give us a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, so basically, one of my co-founders, Miguel, he was developing an electrical motorcycle, and he had to test the electrical components on a smaller scale, because if something exploded, the explosion would be smaller. And so we decided to build an electrical skateboard. And while he was doing his research, he found out that there was a gap in the market for an e-board with an integrated suspension system. And that e-board was also light. So basically, there are e-boards with suspension systems, but they are very heavy. They weigh 40, 50 kilos, and we have built one that weighs 8 kilos. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a very long process, and we started work on this in November 2017, and we only launched in September 2020. So lots of patience, lots of patience and hard work, and also courage from our investors to believe in such a crazy idea. So kudos to Olisipa and Ideias Glaciares. Yeah, man, it has been great. We have sales to over 20 countries. Our biggest market is US. I love Americans for that. 80% of our sales go over there. It was also the same with Craftwall. So over 80% of our sales went to the US. So basically, we can see a pattern that our products tend to sell better in the US. It's a market where people have a much higher purchasing power, and they're also more open to new products, and that's amazing. Unfortunately, that's something that we don't really find in Portugal yet. But as we know, the United States are like for most cases the place in the world where trends start. So I really hope that trend comes to Portugal. Sorry, I think.
Alenquer.
So we went to Alenquer because it's a cheap place. And it's also fairly near to Lisbon, okay? And yeah, we are renting an ancient it's not a chicken coop, like when it's like a big place where we breed chickens. What's the name?
Yeah, like a chicken coop, like a place where they keep the chickens.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
not a small one, like a big
Yeah,
one. Okay.
yeah, chicken coop. So a big chicken coop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
So that's what it used to be, and you're using that space to produce the
Yeah,
boards.
it's our factory now, so lots of chicken ghosts over there. But yeah, yeah, it's a good starting point. So we have been able to scale our production over there, and our idea is to just keep growing. It's already our factory is 400 square meters, and it's already full. Yeah. So lots of things are happening. We just doubled our team size. We are now 7. So yeah,
Exciting stuff.
it's going great. Yeah, we are a bit delayed on our deliveries, but it's just part of the process with complex hardware projects. Where, look, in software you just ship the product and then you send updates, but in hardware you cannot send updates because you can update atoms. So the product needs to be working well, and we need to be very careful with details. Otherwise, our customers won't have a good experience in the long term, and that's something that we do not want. And we have been very, very lucky because our customers, they understand this, and they have been waiting for a long time, but they are now going to get their boards, and it's going to be great. Yeah. People that try the Enter board, they say it's like surfing or snowboarding on land, but the wave or the snow never ends. So the suspension system plus our superior turning system makes the trip something very smooth and pleasant. It's like riding a cloud, a very fast cloud.
Yeah. Have you used one on the island in Madeira on some of those hills?
No, not yet.
That'll be the
because
ultimate
I don't
test.
have one. I don't have one because the priority is a client. So until I have shipped all my orders, I won't have one.
Pedro, I mean, two questions that I want to ask you regarding, just production and business in general here in Portugal. One of the things that I've heard people speak about recently, but also for many years now, is Portugal is a great place for production. To roll out production of a product, to produce things, because the costs are not very, very high, but the quality is superb, and good workmanship and good labor and these kind of things. Is that your experience, and is that why the board is being produced here?
That's our experience, but there's also another side to it. By keeping production in house, we are able to make sure that quality is top notch. Because let's say that our production was in China, okay? We'd get a batch, a batch of boards, and let's say that there was a small flaw, or there was a detail that wasn't as good. The batch has to go back again, and so forth. So instead of taking some months to ship the first to ship the first batch, it would take years, or we'd have to move to China. And with COVID, that just simply became impossible. So by keeping production in-house, we are able to guarantee a better quality and also a better customer support, because if something breaks, we can simply make the parts and ship it. We don't have to wait for suppliers to ship them to us. So it's this kind of advantages that we use, that we have simply by keeping production in-house. To start, in the beginning, it's a bit more expensive, but as you scale, costs go down.
And then what about, I mean, I had a guest on the part that I interviewed on for a previous episode. He's from Canada, and he said he was really surprised by the amount of, entrepreneurial spirit and business ideas that come out of Portugal. Are you surprised by it, or do you think it's something that we should just start to expect of ourselves and start to do? What is your opinion on that?
I'm a bit surprised with the fact that there are already 5 unicorns with Portuguese DNA, and we are a very small country, so that's something. A very small country, and also one with very few resources. So that's
Hold on,
that,
let me stop you quickly, Pedro. Just for people listening that don't understand, what is a unicorn?
yeah. So a unicorn is a startup evaluated at least $1 billion. Okay.
Okay, so it's a startup that's been evaluated
Yeah.
at more than a billion or more dollars.
Yeah, and they're
Okay.
so rare. That's why they're called unicorns. Okay.
Perfect. Carry on. Sorry.
And there are already 5, and that's more than there are in Spain, for example, which has like almost 6 times the population of Portugal.
I love it when we beat
And a
Spain.
much stronger economy. So that's something that's really outstanding. If I'm surprised, I'm a bit surprised, but I'm also not surprised. So it's because I've been watching for a long time the ecosystem, and there are some really great engineers in Portugal. And there's also another fact, which which leads me to the thing I forgot. Since Portugal is a very small country, was a very small market, startups and companies have to be focused from day one into the on the global market. Why? Because if they just focus on the Portuguese market, they won't get anywhere. Okay, and this is a huge advantage for Portuguese startups. Why? Because a Spanish startup or a French or an Italian or a German one, they have a big enough internal market to just focus there when starting out. But the thing is, the processes, the clients, the instruction manuals, the website, they're all in German, Spanish, Italian, or French. But if yes, and when they want to expand internationally, they have to rebuild all of that, and that's hard and takes a lot of money and a lot of time. But if you go to Portuguese startups websites or Portuguese companies, many of them are in English from day one. And that's how we kickstarted our launch, which sells to over 20 countries. It was just because of that. Yeah. If we had done our website in Portuguese, we would have sold one, because we only sold one unit to Portugal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the language is a big factor, though. This is something that's also in Portuguese culture, is we're willing to speak English. Where some of the countries you mentioned, they're not as willing to speak English. They want to stick to their language. And whereas Portugal, from a young age, you learn to speak to speak English at school. Our television programs are in English. They're not with subtitles. They're not dubbed, and this makes a big difference to being able to adapt to a foreign market or a global market, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true. Also, the fact that the Portuguese language is a closed language. Okay, so basically the sounds are very closed, and for example, the Spanish language or the Italian one, they're very open. And the thing with learning languages is that if you speak a closed language like Portuguese or German or English, it's easy for you to open your sounds and speak other languages. But and it's easier for you to learn other closed languages and other open languages. But for people that speak open languages like Spanish, because Portuguese is like hola and Spanish hola. You see the difference. It's very hard to speak a closed language. So that's why Spanish and French and Italian have such a difficulty speaking English. And for Portuguese, it's very easy. And it's not rare for you to find a Portuguese that speaks 3 languages or 3 or 2 or 4 because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Pedro, do you know how many people are on the all-time list of 30 under 30 since 2018? How many Portuguese?
I have no idea.
Is that 6?
Really?
And you're one of them. You're one of them. How does it feel to? I mean, I was looking actually today at some of the names on previous lists, and these are guys that have huge companies all over the world. How does it feel to represent Portugal in that area, and to be alongside people like that?
It's great, but honestly, it's just an award. I have to keep working, because if I stay fixated on the awards we get, I won't go over the level that took me to that award, and I want to keep leveling up and growing. And yeah, it's great. But honestly, I was more happy for my family and for my friends because for them it was like a proof that all my sacrifice and all the sacrifice they made for me was worth it. Yeah, and this being worth it. Yeah.
And the board, one of the 100 inventions on Times Magazine. I mean, that's incredible. Something like that coming out of Portugal, it makes, well, I'm going to say it makes me proud. It makes me proud that it comes from right here. So it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, it's also another proof for our family and friends, and also for our investors that they did the right path. Because when we raised our first round, all we had was a PowerPoint. That's it. And our investors, they invested in the team and not in the product. And for that to happen, that's just wonderful, and I'm super happy for them because in the end, it's just another proof that they made the right bet. And but that cannot be it. I have to keep working to make sure their bet brings more to them.
Yeah. We can start to speak to you about we can start to talk about you as a good export from Madeira as well. Then you had Ronaldo, Fatima Lopes, and we can maybe include Pedro Andrade and Hunter's boards on the list.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Pedro, I mean, you could pretty much probably live anywhere with the work that you do. Why do you choose to stay here?
Yeah, so at the moment I need to be here, okay, because the company is still very young and there are lots of processes that require my input, my physical input, okay, and also to help assembling boards and doing all those things, because in a startup as well as ours, you do everything. You sweep you clean the factory, you assemble boards, you do customer service, you talk with investors, you do the financial things, etc. So I need to be here, but I know that as the company grows, I'll have more freedom, and I have this feeling that I'll have to move to the US in a year or so. So because the US is our biggest market, let's see what happens. But yeah, exciting times.
Very exciting, very exciting. Let's imagine that you finally managed to get a board for yourself. Any place in the country where you going to go for your first skate? What location?
Yeah, I'm going to Madeira. Definitely.
Madeira.
Yeah.
In the mountains, along the beachfront, yeah. Where are you going to skate?
In the beach, in the city, everywhere. Yeah.
All right, and then once you finish your skate, what are you having for lunch?
Probably espetada. Yeah.
Okay. So this is something that's unique to Madeira, and it's a speciality. Explain to people what espetada is, because it's delicious. So, it's my favorite. One of my favorites.
It's basically a wooden stick with meat sticked on it, and then it goes to the fire, and then we eat it with fried corn and fried potatoes. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. It tastes better on the island.
Yeah.
It just tastes different on the island. Amazing. Well, what have you got coming up next? What's happening next with the boards? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah. So right now we are going to deliver all the delayed orders. Then we are going to launch an app, and we already have 2 products lined up for next year. The version 2.0 of the boards,
okay,
and a smaller board, which will have some very interesting features. I don't want to speak about right now, but which will blow many people's mind. Okay, so yeah.
Cool.
Great things are coming. Yeah.
Sounds good. Pedro, what one thing do you want people to remember or to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, patience is key in life. And look, it took us 3 years to go from the idea to launching the brand and the product. And there were some ups and downs. But something very interesting that happened was that before it was like 95% critics, and now it's literally 99% compliments. So it completely tipped over. Yeah, don't give up and don't be afraid of asking for help because no one goes far alone.
Nice. Really, really, really nicely said. Thank you. Pedro, how can listeners follow you online and keep up to date with the work and what you guys are doing next?
Yeah, so the best way of keeping updated is connecting with me on LinkedIn or following Enterboards on Instagram. And also you can follow my Medium channel. I write some articles over there about Hunter and our progress and what's happening and what are our next steps. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Okay. Pedro, a question that we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life, why?
You can have everything you need here, but like you can chase your dreams, but be in a place that won't always try to kill you with stress. Okay. Yeah, I feel that's pretty much true. Yeah.
Brilliant. Pedro, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Good luck with the future, wherever you end up and with the board. And I hope that you get to skate that board in Madeira soon. Thank you so much. And for now, I'm going to let you call it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So thank you once again to Pedro, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We'd love to hear from you. And as we say in Portugal, força. Welcome to the simple life.